Today in our 2009 Dodge Grand Caravan, we'll be having a look at and installing the Airlift 1000 air helper springs for the rear, part number AL60814. The reason you'll want to have an airlift system like this is if you have a vehicle where you're towing a trailer with a heavy tongue weight or have a lot of cargo loaded in the back of it quite frequently, this will help support the rear of the vehicle to help prevent it from sagging, so you can drive down the road with the vehicle riding more like factory, and you won't have to compromise your suspension, your tires, or your handling. With it riding level, you'll still have your handling, your braking, and your tire wear will be just like normal. Let's have a closer look at what our airlift kit here comes with. We have our two airbags here. We have our section of black rubber hose here for the Airline. Have some zip ties to help secure everything. We have two grommets to run the Airline through. We have a T-fitting here that will connect the two airbags and lead us out to one port on the back of the vehicle. We have our fittings here to air them up. We have some washers, some nuts, some rubber washers, and some star lock washers. Some caps to cover up our fittings to keep dirt and dust out of them so we can easily air them up. With our vehicle up in the air and our rear axle supported with some jack stands here, we can begin our installation by unclipping the brake line from this plastic clip on the side. Doing so with a flathead screwdriver. You can separate the tab like so. Pop it free. And remove this bolt here from this bracket. This bolt's a 13mm. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Now we'll disconnect our rear shocks from the subframe, putting an 18mm wrench on the nut side and an 18 socket on the bolt itself. We'll do the same on the other side. Now we want to take a marker and mark the body, the spring seat, and the spring itself, so we can line them all back up when we reinstall them. Do the same on both sides. Now for springs, the spring seat and the body marked all in the same location, we can lower our rear axle enough so the springs can come out. We're going to do this slowly and evenly on both sides. Pull them back around the brake lines, remove the spring. Make sure we do the same on both sides. Now if our spring's removed, I went ahead and put an L for the left spring and an R for the right spring. That way they go back in their original location. First thing we'll need to do is remove this bottom piece from the spring. Now we'll pull off the actual bump stop itself here. Drop it out the bottom of the spring. Then we'll remove the top section as well. You might find it a little difficult to remove. Now taking your jounce bumper bracket here, take a 1/2-inch drill bit and enlarge the existing hole. It's plastic, so it drills very easily. Just make sure you're wearing gloves while we're doing this, or put it in a vise. So we're just gonna push some of the rubber stuff on through. So we're just gonna push the plastic on through a little bit to help clean up the hole. Now this top hole here, where the spring seat's on the vehicle, we need to drill that out to a 1/2 inch as well. Now we can do the same for the other side as well. Now at the top of our leaf spring seat, there's a reinforcement right here. We need to drill a hole 1/2 inch diameter, about 3.5 inches from the bottom lip of it, just behind this panel here. So we'll mark where we're going to drill. Right now, with a smaller drill bit than our final diameter, we'll drill ourselves a pilot hole, making sure we only go through the first layer of metal. Okay, with our pilot hole started, we can change out to our 1/2-inch diameter drill bit and finish the hole. We can now take our supplied grommet and insert it into the hole. Push it into position, squeeze it in. We can repeat the process on the other side now. Okay, now we can take our air spring here. Remember, this is the top where we marked with the yellow marker before. And we can install our air spring with the fitting going towards the top. We'll have to squeeze it, spray a little soap and water around the spring. It helps the airbag slide in through the coils a little easier, so you won't be struggling quite as much. We can take our jounce bumper stop right here. See this divot right there? That is where the end of our coil spring right here is going to rest. So I'll push it back into position and give it a smack on the ground. I'll twist our coil spring to where it lines up. We're not reinstalling our jounce bumper, so we can set that aside. We'll take our jounce bumper mounting point. Again, spot right here is where the end of the spring is going to rest. We'll insert it into place like so. Push it on down. We'll make sure that our marks line up where we had them originally. Now we can reinstall our spring. Stick the bottom end first. Push our brake lines up out of the way. Push it into position. Then we'll rotate our spring so our yellow marks line up into position again. And we'll do the same on the other side. Okay, now that we have our springs back into position, we need to raise our rear axle up just slightly enough so the springs stay in place. Make sure we go fairly evenly on both sides. Now we'll install our airline through the top of our bump stop bracket here and out through our grommet. We'll begin by inserting the airline through the hole in the bottom of the bump stop bracket. And push it on up. We'll hold it in position there, and we'll have an assistant feed it through the bottom while we pull it through the grommet. Now you may find it easier to remove the grommet that we previously installed, just so you have some access to get a hook or a pulling device or something through the hole. We'll grab the airline tubing that our assistant fed through the bottom of the jounce, and we'll pull it. We'll pull our tubing through, so we'll reinstall our grommet over the hose. And we'll push our grommet back into the hole using a screwdriver to assist us. Okay, now our grommet's reinstalled. We can go to the other side and do the same thing. We're gonna put a bracket on our hitch so we have a place to mount the fittings. We have one of these long brackets here available on our website, part number 18136. What we're gonna do is just attach it here. We're gonna bend this tab down here and enlarge some of these holes so we can have our fittings go through. I've already marked about where I want to bend it. We're just gonna bend it down at this location. We'll stick it in a vise and hit it with a hammer to do that. Now we have ourselves our bracket bent where we can install our airlines easily. Now using a 5/16 drill bit, we'll enlarge these two upper holes here on our bracket so our airline fitting will be able to fit through it. Okay, with our holes enlarged, our airline fittings will now fit through there. So we'll position our bracket over here on the side of the hitch, slide our provide a clamp up. That'll give us a nice sturdy bracket to secure our Airlines to, and we'll cut the excess of the clamp off. We'll take our Airline fitting, thread on one of the nuts, just work it all the way down. Take one of the lock washers, take the rubber washer, a flat washer, and another hex nut, install it through the hole we drilled. Put our rubber washer on, like so. A flat washer, and then another nut. And we'll do the same for the other one. Now we can snug up our nuts a little bit. Now taking one of our provided Airline clamps, I'll stick it in a pair of pliers like so, and we'll slip it on the end of our hose that's going to connect to our airbag, just like that. We'll do the same for the other side. Just stick them into some hot water first. It'll help soften up the rubber and make them slide on easier. After the Airline's been soaked in hot water, it pushes on real easily. And then we can take our pliers again and work our clamp back on down and clamp it over the nipple on the airbag. That'll secure our hose to our fitting. Now we can do the same on the other side. Now we can pull the rest of our Airline up through our grommet. With our Airline tubing pulled all the way up, we can raise our axle back into position, a little bit at a time, working both sides to keep everything even. Once our shocks line back up, we can grab our bolts and insert them through the shock in our subframe. Put our nut back on. Do the same on both sides. And we can tighten these back down using our 18mm socket and our wrench. We can remove our support jack stands, get them out of our way. Now we can reinstall our brake line bracket. Get our bolt started here. We can tighten our bolt down using our 13mm again. And we'll do the same on the other side. Now we'll put a clamp over the other end of our Airline hose and stick it onto our fitting. So you can see we've already done one of them. We'll slide our clamp back down, secure it, like so. Now we'll show you how we have routed our Airlines. On the driver's side, we secured it up to this brake line here, the zip tie. Trim off the excess here real quick, making sure we don't cut the air hose. We brought it back, follow the wires for the trailer brake controller. Secured it to that and the hitch with another zip tie here in the front. Brought it back over the hitch, secured it again to the wiring for the trailer brake controller. Cut our zip tie there. Went over this bumper support bracket. We secured it up there to the wiring harness and that with another zip tie. Again here, we have another bumper support bracket. Went back behind our hitch and connected to our fitting on the driver's side. The passenger side goes from our fitting back underneath this heat shield for the exhaust by the gas tank. And it comes out, we follow behind the heat shield, behind this line for the rear air conditioning unit, secured to the brake line to get on the other side with a zip tie. And we come up, secured to the brake line there, and it goes down into our airbag, like so. Okay, we inflated our airbags to 30 PSI. Just a reminder, these bags support from 5 to 35 PSI of pressure. You don't want to exceed that. Once we had them inflated to 30 PSI, we sprayed all of our fittings and connections down with soapy water to make sure nothing was leaking and we didn't see any bubbles. In our case, everything was good, so we can secure Our fittings here with a protective valve cover dust cap, just to keep any moisture, dirt, and debris out of them. And our install is complete. Now we can take it for a drive down our test course and show you what it looks like. And that completes our look at the Airlift 1000 air helper springs or coil springs in the rear, part number AL60814 on our 2009 Dodge Grand Caravan.
Click the link below to shop, learn more, or visit us at etrailer.com.